we talk often, I think, about Israeli apartheid on this show. I feel like we could talk about it more because it's one of the great abuses and injustices in the world right now.
It's interesting, like on that note, we should talk about it on its own merits, and also on the merits that groups lobbying to sort of maintain that are very invested in our politics, including DMFI and AIPAC.
It is, and also like just the general fact that we fund Israeli apartheid in this country. Your taxpayer money goes towards that. And there are very few members of Congress who are brave enough to speak out against this because of the aforementioned lobby that will come after you, will flood your elections with money smearing you in certain ways. And one of those few who chooses to stand up for what's right in the face of those pressures is Representative Rashida Tlaib. Her and Ilhan Omar, I think, really stand among the rest as vocal, brave voices in Congress pushing back against this. And particularly because Rashida Tlaib has Palestinian family, is of Palestinian descent, this is immensely personal for her. And what's happening right now in Israel, where Benjamin Netanyahu has returned to power for a third time, he has formed a coalition with Israel's furthest right, the most religiously conservative Zionist elements in Israel, Jewish supremacists to a degree. That's the coalition that he has formed with the far right. And the agenda that's on the docket is apartheid on steroids, what's happening in the occupied territories. Here's Rashida Tlaib speaking out about this in her first address to Congress, first floor speech in 2023.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today as the only Palestinian-American serving in the United States Congress. I feel a strong responsibility, Mr. Speaker, to humanize the Palestinian people who are living under increasingly oppressive and racist apartheid policies. 2002 was one of the deadliest in memory for Palestinians. Dozens of children were killed by the government of Israel, and many were targeted. Groups like DCI Palestine, who monitor these killings, were targeted. We cannot look away, Mr. Speaker, and gaslight the oppressive and violent policies towards the Palestinian people who are experiencing right now, literally taking away their human dignity and their right to be able to freely live and raise their children without this type of targeting. We can't keep handing over billions each year to an apartheid state violating human rights. And now we are dealing with a far-right government there now promising to make things worse. And they're not even hiding it, Mr. Speaker. They are intentionally saying exactly what they're going to continue to do, which is the status quo, and again, making it very dangerous for Palestinians to live and thrive. No person, not one Palestinian, Israeli, anyone, deserves to suffer or die for who they are, what they believe, or where they were born. The sooner we end unconditional support for Israel's apartheid government, the sooner we can begin making good on that belief. Today, I'm thinking of my Siti, my grandmother, who deserves to have human dignity. She should not be denied of who she is solely because she was born Palestinian, to be able to feel safe and to be able to have human rights. I am also thinking today, Mr. Speaker, of the Palestinian-American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh and the countless Palestinians who deserve to live, but whose lives were cut short. Thank you again for at least trying to listen and hear from someone that, again, is connected to so many folks on the ground there that, again, deserve to be seen and heard in this chamber. Thank you, and I yield.
And that's exactly it, right? Without her voice, without others choosing to make sure this is resonating. I mean, how much is it resonating? You can't really tell. Probably not that much with most members, but that's why it's so important to have her in Congress.
It's certainly alarming a lot of people. Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL, the Apartheid Defense League, truly bewildering to see a member of Congress use inflammatory rhetoric and spread disinformation about the Jewish state using the terms apartheid and ethnic cleansing is both wildly offensive and inaccurate.
Yeah, Human Rights Watch has been calling it an apartheid state for many decades.
That's interesting. Maybe something we should talk about later, because Ken Roth has been iced out of a job at Harvard. Ken Roth, who is, I think, the founder of Human Rights Watch, which is, frankly, a human rights organization that is not one that we like to put forward because it's milquetoast.
Right. That is the safe assessment. They're also borrowing in their assessment of it from the United Nations, audit of like what the country is doing. It's a
human rights organization that like is very, I guess, pro-West and was slow to call Israel an apartheid state, but that is what it is.
I mean, when she talks about her grandmother there, right now Israeli forces are in the works to continue to forcibly remove Palestinians from their homes and villages in order to further Israeli settlements. And they'll use a variety of explanations for the cultural...
we're making neighborhoods because they do terrorism.
Yeah, it's either a military operation. We need your home that you've had in your family's generations for a military operation. Do you have a permit for it? No, I don't, because it's nullified or not recognized by the corrupt court system in Israel. Okay, well, we're bulldozing it. Or they just basically straight up say it. This is for Israeli settlers, essentially. And so that's just, one of the many plans that the Israeli government is undergoing. And what they're choosing to do is also further gut the Israeli Supreme Court and undercut their ability to check Parliament's, it's essentially like judicial review, which further just makes the court system a green light for apartheid actions. And that's another reason, like we emphasize this on the show, focusing on legality and, this is just because it's legal. It's a fallacy, because a lot of times these legal institutions can be corrupted for political ends like this. Yeah, and people should stop calling it like the quote-unquote only democracy in the Middle East. It's disgusting to call it democracy. That, as John Kerry said in 2016, John Kerry said Israel can be Jewish or it can be democratic. It cannot be both. Mm-hmm.